Hello everyone, my name is Salim and welcome to the mini markets breakdown analysis. First of all, I just want to make sure everyone can hear me clearly before we start the analysis. Okay, so I hope everyone have had a good weekend. Yeah, good to know everyone can hear clearly. And Nemat just says something that you've requested previously is to keep the exact same analysis that we've had. So on the live stream that we've had on Thursday night, which obviously was planning for the Friday session, this is the exact same levels that we've had planted for GJ. So just want to go and quickly go through the different time frames. As we can see, obviously the weekly closed bullish. Just want to show you different time frames on how these analyses look like. So as we can see, price tapped into a level that we have identified previously. Let's have a look on the left. Okay, so mic is clear. And as we can see, obviously price rejected an area, and I believe that was a monthly rejection wick that was formed previously. So I believe that was formed back, yeah. So as we can see, this is the lineup. This is the first target we've had for buys on Thursday, planning for Friday, which was the monthly rejection formed back in November 2015. As we go back to the same chart on the most recent price action, you can clearly see how price respected that monthly rejection and how price retraced and went back into the range. Now again, it looks like GJ is still extremely bullish. So I just wanted to keep those charts because obviously we've had some requests from the live chart. But yeah, this is how it looks like on a daily. Obviously, the daily still closed within the daily range. Looking at the 4 hour time frame, 4 hour still consolidating. Looking at the hourly, so overall, apart from the sells, I'd say, from when price formed the resistance, after that I think price started to range overall. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna remove everything, and then we're going to start looking at the weekly, how the weekly closed, and go from there. Okay, so looking at the monthly so far, so the monthly has been extremely bullish. The monthly candle still trading above the monthly resistance formed in December last year, which obviously that was the most recent monthly candle closed. Dropping down to the weekly time frame, and obviously we don't really have that many days up until the monthly candle closes, but still there is, I would say, what we have, like, let's say 10 days from the monthly candle to close. But still, there anything that's possible at the moment. Despite the monthly candle being extremely bullish, there's still a probability for price to retrace and close below this monthly resistance, forming a new rejection to the upside, respecting that previous monthly rejection formed previously on the left. So it's too early to say, I would say, but now we're looking on a weekly time frame. The weekly candle closed extremely bullish, closed just within the weekly resistance formed back on the last weekly candle that was formed in November 2023. And now the big question is are we going to see a continuation to the upside, knowing that the weekly candle closed strong bullish? Or are we going to see another level forming resistance in here, respecting this previous weekly resistance, and then retracing again? Now, based on a monthly, based on a weekly, we do have confirmations for that continuation to the upside. The only way we can anticipate that is to allow the new weekly candle to form a bottom wick. Once it breaks above this high, there is a higher probability for price to continue bullish, not only meaning that the new weekly candle will be breaking above this weekly high, but also breaking above its own monthly high as well. But then obviously the weekly closed bullish, and what's interesting with this weekly candle is the weekly hasn't really formed the bottom wick. So my anticipation early on the week, I was anticipating to see a retracement, and I was anticipating to see a rejection, but I still mentioned that there was a probability for price to retrace again to retest this weekly resistance before the continuation to the downside. Now we're looking on a daily candle that was formed on Friday. The daily closed doji bearish, forming both rejection to the downside and to the upside. But what's interesting with this daily candle is where the rejection happened. So now looking at the daily, so the daily tapped into a certain area, and yes, okay, so the daily closed doji bearish, formed the rejection to the downside, formed the rejection to the upside. But the big question here we have is why this daily candle didn't continue bullish. Now the first thing you want to do is you want to put a line to where the daily candle rejected, and again we go back to the same thing that we have identified I'd say a moment ago. When you're looking at the monthly, so this is where the daily candle for Friday formed the rejection to the upside, and this is also where the weekly candle formed a high as well. So now when you go back to the monthly time frame and try to see where this monthly candle tapped into for price to start to retrace and reject the upside. Now when you look on the left, what do we see? This is something that we've identified recently, and this is something that we mentioned that there could be a problem for price to continue bullish, knowing this is where the monthly candle broke. So obviously we can see here a monthly candle closing bullish, forming a monthly support. So the anticipation was to see the following monthly candle, which is obviously the one that was formed in November 2015, to continue bullish once it breaks above this high, to then retest this monthly resistance. But what happened here is the monthly candle closed weak bearish, forming a rejection to the upside, and then the following monthly candle formed obviously another bearish candle, and then obviously that's when we've seen a huge bearish trend from that point. So now what's interesting is, what are we going to see once price tap into this rejection area? So now let's go back to the recent price action, and the daily candle closed bearish. And now to start breaking down the chart, and if you do have any questions while I'm breaking down the chart, then just feel free to put them on the live chat. I'll be happy to assist. Greetings from Mexico. Welcome, Oscar. Welcome to the live stream. Okay, so now what we like to do usually is put a line where the previous daily high was formed, and put a line to where the daily low was formed as well on Friday, just so we know where the daily candle has been ranging on the last daily candle. Now when dropping down to the 4-hour time frame, and clearly we can see we have this 4-hour range forming, and what we can see here is we have the most recent 4-hour support formed around 187,640. The most recent 4-hour resistance formed around 188,440. Dropping down to the hourly time frame, zooming in, and now we have this recent 1-hour support around 187,740. The most recent 1-hour resistance, I would say that's weak, but let's have a look at a different time frame. Now what we can see is we have this strong 30-minute resistance area where price have been ranging before the market closed on Friday. Dropping down to the 15-minute time frame, again this is a really tight, messy range. So now to identify the no trade zone, and what would be good actually to do here is, since we haven't got any recent decent 1-hour resistance or even a 4-hour resistance, the best thing to do is to refer to the price action that we have on the left, which is this section in here. So the first thing we can see on the left here is we have this 4-hour resistance around 188,440, measuring in this range. That's roughly around 60 to 70 pip range, I would say. So dropping down to the hourly time frame, now what we can see based on the hourly time frame, the 4-hour resistance is lining up with this previous 1-hour support. Slight adjustment to 188,430. Dropping down to the 30-minute time frame, now we have this range on the 30-minute time frame, and that shouldn't really matter that much on the 15-minute time frame. But the most important thing we have here is we have identified an area where we could look for potential buys. Now to look for potential sells. So obviously, so we can identify the no trade zone. So looking at the hourly time frame, actually looking at the 4 hour, we have this 4 hour support around 187,650. But then dropping down to the hourly time frame, we have an hourly support in here, and then we have an hourly support at this level. So this is where we're gonna need to adjust it. Let's take a look on the 5-minute time frame. We have a decent support at this level. Looking at the 15 time frame, again a decent level of support at the around 187,650. So what we can do here is we could look for potential sells below 187,650, anticipating for price to break and close, let's say, out of this range to continue bearish, knowing we have some clean traffic on the left here. But this is something that we can look at later on. So the first thing we need to do is see how this price action look on the hourly. Now here's the thing, since we have this hourly support, again it would be good to adjust it to 187,600, because the thing is, the best thing to do is you want to put the potential sells where it would look good on the 4 hour time frame as well as the hourly time frame. And probably this is going to be the no trade zone. If you do have any questions, again, if you do have any suggestion regarding the no trade zone, just share it with us. So this is going to be the no trade zone, because in my opinion this is a really difficult range to trade, because obviously the new weekly candle has already only just opened, and we need to allow enough range for price to consolidate, for the new weekly to set up, for the Asian session to set up, and then anticipate decent moves around the pre-London to London Open. So now to look for potential buys. Now again, going back to the monthly, and the first thing we can identify here is the anticipation to see a retest of the current monthly high, which is 188,930. Dropping down to the weekly time frame, we have the weekly high that was formed last week. So now the way we are visualizing this setup based on a weekly time frame, it looks like we could see a potential continuation to the upside, as long as we see some sort of a confirmation based on the daily or the 4 hour time frame to give us that bullish momentum again. Because so far the way the daily candle closed, still ranging, I would say, within this daily range. Obviously the daily candle that was formed on Thursday and Friday, and also obviously that's also the 4 hour range as well. But it would be good to see a decent support to be formed here, a potential rejection to the downside, let's say a 4 hour candle breaking below this 4 hour range, and then retracing, closing. Doesn't have to really close bullish, I would say. As long as we see some sort of a rejection to the downside, and even if the 4 hour candle was closing weak bearish, now that's a sign. So as long as we have the following candle closing either within this range or forming a support, now we could say, okay, so price have already formed the rejection to the downside, which that rejection represents the new weekly candle forming a bottom wick, and also represents the new daily candle forming a bottom wick as well. So then you start to anticipate for that continuation to the upside. So far we have identified the monthly high, the weekly high, the last weekly candle high, and now this is the daily rejection formed on Friday. Now, as we have mentioned previously, this area was the monthly rejection formed back in November 2015. So that would be good. That's just slightly below it. That's not really a problem. The reason why we're not going to really pay attention to this one is because we have some new recent price action, which is obviously the weekly high formed last week. So I'd say the first target for buys could potentially be, let's have a look actually. So this is a 4 hour rejection. Okay, so this is a daily rejection. This is a 4 hour resistance, the 4 hour candle forming a rejection to the upside. Looking at the hourly time frame, now we have an hourly resistance, so that changes it slightly, I'd say. So an hourly resistance around 188,800. Dropping down to the 30-minute time frame, we have a 30-minute resistance around 188,860. Looking at the 50-minute time frame, that's the same level of resistance as well. So I would say we could have the first target for buys at 188.860, targeting this 30-minute resistance in the anticipation to see the weekly wick fill, and for that continuation to the upside. But still, obviously, we have to pay attention to different time frames. If price is breaking above this area, the question is, do we have enough confirmation based on the previous candles to tell us that we are not going to see another rejection to the upside, knowing that we've already had this 4-hour rejection forming back on Friday. So we really need a good confirmation for price to continue bullish. So I would say the first target for buys could potentially be 188.860, targeting this 30-minute resistance. The second target for buys, which is, I believe, and that's still actually valid, one of the targets we've had on Friday, was, I believe, a previous weekly support. Yeah, so we had this previous weekly support around 189.570, because even when you drop down to different time frames, we've had clean traffic on here. So we're going to daily. And obviously we've had this huge rejection on a daily time frame, on a daily candle. Yeah, so obviously also we have to remember the weekly candle has already just opened, so we need to really allow price to form a new range. So now to look for potential sells. So the way the weekly candle closed, still closed within this weekly resistance, and that doesn't mean we're going to see that retracement or maybe, let's say, another form of resistance. I would say it's all down to how the weekly setup for, let's say, from Monday. The Monday daily candle will determine or will give you an indication on where price could be going. So what I would say is, if price, for example, retested this 4-hour resistance, rejected this area again and formed another level of resistance, either on a 4-hour time frame or, let's say, another rejection to the upside on the hourly time frame, then we could start to anticipate for a potential weekly resistance to be formed here. And again, the reason or the confluence for that is knowing that price, where the last weekly candle rejected, this was a monthly rejection formed back in November 2015. So look, let's have a look again. So dropping down to the daily, actually the weekly. The first thing we can see is we've had this strong weekly candle closing bullish. Now dropping down to the daily time frame, and looking on the left again, we have this strong daily candle closing bullish, which was the daily candle formed on Wednesday last week. The first thing we can identify here is we have this previous daily resistance around 186.940, dropping down to the 4-hour time frame, and on the 4-hour probably we have some sort of a range by the way this 4-hour wick is looking. But let's have a look. So on the hourly time frame, as mentioned, we have this recent 1-hour support around 187.050. Yes, we do have this hourly support, and yes, we still have to pay attention to these levels. But if we've had decent volume, there is a higher probability for price to break out of this range and continue bearish to retest this fresh or recent hourly support. But let's have a look on the 5-minute time frame. Again, we have a 30-minute support at this level, lower slightly, around 186.930. So go back to the hourly, go back to the daily. I'd say the first target for sells could potentially be 187.050, targeting this previous 1-hour support. The second target, however, which we could have a really decent level to, or let's say a range to trade, is this range within this daily candle. So we have around, let's say, 109 pip range. This would be a really good area to look to trade, or to even look for to leave runners basically. But let's have a look. So the first thing we can see here on the daily is we have these 3 daily candles closing side by side, forming a rejection to the upside and closing small body candles. And then below that, that's where the weekly candle, I believe, opened with a gap down. What we're going to do here is we're going to put a line to where this previous daily resistance, drop it down to the 4 hour time frame, and we'll have to identify something within this range. The first thing I can see here is we have this 4 hour rejection before this 4 hour resistance was formed. But let's have a look on the left. Now we have this previous 4 hour support, dropping down to the hourly time frame. Let's have a look at the most recent price action on the hourly. Now here's the thing, so I'm not really going to pay much attention to the left, despite this range looks really messy on the 4 hour time frame. Let's have a look. I'm not really going to pay much attention, but looking at the recent price action, this hourly candle, I would say that that would be a really good candle to be in, or to correct once price break out of this range. So what we could do here is we could look, because even when you look on the 30-minute time frame, for example, it's still clean traffic all the way down to 186.370 or 320. So what we could do here is we could have the second target for sells around, let's say, 186.400, targeting this previous 4 hour high. And yep, so this is the analysis for GJ. If you do have any questions regarding GJ's analysis, just let us know now before we head to XAUUSD. Any questions are welcome. Because the thing is, like, the way the weekly candle, and I still think it would be good to see, you know, a retracement on high time frame, because GJ has been extremely bullish. But that would be really interesting to see what, or like how this monthly candle closes. But the way the weekly candle closed strong bullish, closed below or just within this weekly resistance. But then when you break it down to the daily formed the rejection to the upside, which raises really a question to see, like, is this a sign of price starting to retrace? But then when I was looking at this weekly high, and then when I looked on the left, that was the monthly rejection area formed back in November 2015, which was another like indication of what, like, is that an early sign to see that potential rejection to the upside for a correction on a weekly time frame? So second target for buys, or like, do you mean third target for buys, Nimat? Because we have the first target targeting the recent 30-minute resistance, which also was the monthly rejection that was formed back in November 2015. The second target we've had here, Nimat, is we've had this weekly support formed previously. It's something that we've identified, and also that's one of the targets we've had. And again, this is a really big range, and this is just, you know, based on what we can see on a weekly and a daily, because obviously price action, so price hasn't visited this area for quite some time. We are anticipating for those huge ranges on a weekly, or for example even on a daily, we are anticipating for these levels to be corrected, or for price to smoothly move within these areas. I mean, apart from this daily rejection, other than that, I can see clean traffic. For example, this daily candle, that was a clean traffic, but we haven't got any recent daily resistance below that level, because above where the monthly rejection formed here, we only have another rejection on the left, and then we still have clean traffic on the left as well. So I would say the second target would be 189.560, targeting that previous weekly support, which was formed on the 12th of July 2015. Do we have any questions regarding GJ's analysis? But yeah, like, this is how sometimes I anticipate, you know, an early potential rejection to the upside. I always look on the left, and the other indication we have here is how come the monthly candle that was formed in November last year didn't continue bullish, despite knowing that that monthly candle broke above this monthly candle formed in September. Okay, noted, with many thanks. Plus, what time UK's Japanese policy report tomorrow? To be honest, you know, it's always tentative for the policy for the rates, but sometimes I've noticed, you know, the news comes around 3:30 in the morning, sometimes at 4 o'clock, sometimes at like 2:45. It all depends. They've never specified a specific time to when they will be releasing, you know, the data for the interest rates. That's something that I've noticed. The only way you'll know is once you start to see, you know, spreads getting crazy, then that's when I know, okay, maybe that's when they've released it. I know sometimes you can tell by the My FX book on their website, but other than that, I don't think they do display a specific time. Do we have any questions regarding GJ before we head with gold? Yeah, so basically on GJ, like I always look at why price, and it's something I was actually explaining is, for example, if this monthly candle that was formed back in November last year broke above this rejection formed on the same year as well and retraced, why did this candle retraced? Now when you look on the left, you'll be able to see price. This rejection was formed because of the monthly rejection formed back in that was November 2015, and again the same thing is happening on the on this monthly candle. So the question is, if it's already happened within this monthly candle, what is the probability for that rejection to happen again? Now again, you ask yourself, why has that rejection happened? When you look above that monthly rejection, and let's just go back again. I know sometimes I repeat the same thing, but it's just to explain it to some people. But again, like the question is, why did price reject the same area for 2 monthly candles? Again, above this area we have clean traffic, so it's good for price to reject this area, because then this will allow for price to retrace on a high time frame to form a decent support, and then to see that continuation to the upside. Okay, thanks, you're welcome Nimat, anytime. But yeah, this is sometimes how I anticipate it. Like I said, based on a monthly, I don't really see so far how this monthly candle is playing out. I don't really see a potential resistance to be formed, because obviously the monthly has been extremely bullish, trading above these ranges, trading above the previous monthly high, respecting the previous monthly low. So confirmations based on a monthly is really hard. The only thing you can anticipate here is what is going on, or where price could potentially reject before let's say that continuation to the upside, which always looking on the left as we did recently. Okay, so something's been removed, that's fine. Okay, so now I think we're gonna jump into XAUUSD, and if any questions comes up for GJ, we can always come back to it and answer those questions. And again, Nimat and some of the members that we've had, they've requested to keep the same targets, and as we can see, these lines that you can see, these are the exact same targets we've had for the analysis posted for Friday. As we can see, we were looking for potential buys above 20, 30, 600. We didn't really, apart from this hourly candle, that was a really good indication for volume coming into the market. But then these hourly candles, the way they closed, if I was looking at the chart at the time, I really wouldn't have taken any trades, because these were small hourly candles. And when I look at these candles and I look on the left of this previous 1 hour resistance, it kind of like it stops me from taking those potential buys. But as we can see, price tapped into this area and then retraced and went back into the range again. But yeah, but now let's look at all the different time frames. And also for the members that have actually came on the last live stream, I'm not sure if you do remember, I have mentioned how we could potentially see a daily resistance to be formed, and as we could see, The daily resistance was formed. I've mentioned about a potential rejection to the upside. You could always go back to the live stream that we have had last time. You can basically check with these informations. But these kind of patterns or moves under the high time frame, they've already been anticipated on Thursday. And again, the same thing on gold. So now looking at the monthly, gold still been bearish. The weekly closed bearish with some sort of a rejection to the downside. Now this is actually a good retracement, and I'll explain that shortly. Okay, so the weekly candle closed bearish, still formed a weekly resistance around 20.48.100, but wherever the weekly candle rejected, it has rejected this weekly support. Now if this weekly candle rejected this area, there is still a probability for price to retest this rejection area if price meant to continue bullish. But again, we could see for example the new weekly candle retracing, tapping into this weekly resistance, breaking the low, and potentially anticipate the weak fill for this weekly candle and another retest of this weekly support. But then when dropping down to the daily candle for Friday closed weak bullish, forming a rejection to the upside. And this is something that we've mentioned on Friday, on the Friday's analysis. We've mentioned how we could potentially see the weekly candle retracing, forming a rejection, which will allow the daily candle to close weak bullish to form a rejection, and then maybe to see that continuation to the downside. And the only reason that was mentioned is because of how the daily candle for Thursday was formed. Obviously the daily candle for Thursday closed bullish, formed the support around 20.09.300. Because of the daily candle closing that way, there was a higher probability for the following daily candle to follow that momentum, but the anticipation was to see a weak daily closing bullish, which will allow the weekly candle to not close weak bearish, still have a decent body candle. Okay, so now to start breaking down the analysis for gold. Now again, something that we like to do is put a line where the previous daily candle was formed, which is 20.20.400, and the previous daily high for Friday was formed around 20.39.700. Now dropping down to the 4 hour time frame, and what we can see on the 4 hour is overall okay, so I'll just enter buys to fill daily wick. Based on what confirmation are you thinking to take buys? Have you got any confirmation? Are you talking about GJ or gold? If you can just specify on this, would be good. What is the percentage probability the Tuesday GPY reports can force a retrace? Secondly, what is the usual time for the report? It usually indicates as tentative on the Forex calendar. I think I've already answered that question. But what is the percentage probability for? I mean, to be honest, I'm not a fundamental guy. I highly recommend Capital Hungry. Jeev really knows the fundamental side of Forex. He's really good with that. But what I would say, based on what I've seen, more likely they'll keep the rates the same. The only thing I think that could move the price or form a rejection or whatever, if they started to talk about currency intervention, knowing that GJ has been extremely bullish. That means obviously the more GJ is bullish, the less value Japanese yen will have. So if they start to talk about currency intervention, which meaning they'll start to talk about potential increase on rates, then maybe price will start to retrace heavily on high time frame, and that will devalue the pound sterling against the Japanese yen. That's the only way I could say it personally, but that would be a good, I would say, that would be a good way to see that retracement. But yeah, so secondly, what is the usual time for the report? I would say the report usually, based on what I've seen, I'd say around 3 a.m. in the morning, UK time, 3:30, sometimes 4 o'clock. Sometimes you don't even notice, because the only way I look at it is when I look at the charts, for example, and if I see any spike or I see, spreads widening, that's when I know. If you look at my FX books on their news, I think they do display that, that's for sure, because I've seen it previously. Okay, so going back to gold again. So now what's interesting with this one is the daily candle closed small bullish. Now when you measure the body of the candle, that's roughly measuring around 54 pip range, but then when you measure the rejection to the upside, that is 102 pip range. Now that's almost a double, and this is how we identify a rejection. But when you drop down to the 4-hour time frame, and what we can see is we can see 4-hour candles printing side by side, forming a rejection to the upside, retracing and closing small body candles. Now what we can do here is adjust these levels. So we have the most recent 4-hour support around 2022.500, and we have the most recent 4-hour resistance around 2032.100. Drop it down to the hourly time frame and zooming in, the first thing we can see is we have this 1-hour support around 2024.600, most recent 1-hour resistance to be adjusted to 2029 or let's say 2030. Looking at the 30-minute time frame, so clearly we can see this is a range. Yes, we do have an hourly support around 2026.800, but the only problem with this one is if you were looking for sells below this level, the next level of support is around 20 pip range, so this becomes a really tight range. Even if you were looking for potential sells in here, you are trading a 4-hour rejection area and a previous 4-hour resistance. So ideally is to wait for price to break and close out of this range. So what we need to do now is we need to adjust the no trade zone. Now I'd say it's safe to say we could look for potential buys. Looking for our time frame. Knowing that the new weekly candle has just opened, a new daily candle just will be opening now, we need to allow the market to form some sort of a range to, let's say, a new range for the new weekly candle before having a good anticipation. So in order to do that is we need to allow enough range for price to consolidate. Now what I would say, despite having this hourly resistance here, and this is a really small range, I'd say, from where price is trading at the moment, anytime price could break above this level, and then it might form a rejection, and then you start to think, okay, maybe it's just gonna reject the upside. You start taking trades, sells, and then you become, just taking losses within this range. But what would be good is we have a solid 4-hour resistance. I would say this is a really good level to look for potential buys. 2031.700 for potential buys. For potential sells, however, now we have an hourly support around 2024.700. Looking at the 30-minute time frame, that's a decent 30-minute support, and then we do have this 15-minute support at this level, but I'm not really concerned about this level at all. So as long as we have the high time frame lining up, which is the 30-minute time frame, the hourly, I would say that's decent. So what we're going to do is we're going to have this area as a no trade zone. Any questions are welcome. And now to look for potential buys. Now going back to the weekly again, and just to have a quick anticipation. So based on a weekly time frame, so the monthly is bearish, the weekly is bearish. We still have that bearish momentum. We still have price forming rejection to the upside. You can clearly see each weekly candles forming, still respecting the previous weekly high and still breaking below the previous weekly low. So we still have that nice bearish momentum. We still have price. We still have confirmation for price telling us that there is a rejection to the upside and there is price respecting a resistance. So the anticipation for the new weekly candle is to see a retracement to retest an area within this level, not necessarily, let's say, the 2050s, maybe the previous weekly support around 2045 or 2044, before that continuation to the downside, and that will allow the new weekly candle to form the top wick before breaking the low to continue bearish to follow the trend. Now, the first thing we can identify here is we have this weekly resistance formed last week around 20.48.100. Dropping down to the daily time frame, and on a daily we have this previous daily range, and then above that, which is something that we can't ignore, is where the daily rejected on Friday, which is 20.39.700. Now zooming in and let's break that down. So this was a daily retracement and the 4-hour rejection. Now where this 4-hour rejected is where the previous 4-hour support formed on the left. And also another interesting part is where this 4-hour rejected previously, we can clearly see we've had multiple rejections on the left. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 3 4-hour candles rejecting that area, and then another 4-hour candle rejecting the exact same level again. So the probability, I would say, for price to continue bullish becomes really weak. You need to have really good confirmation for price to break out of this range, closing bullish within this level to continue bullish and break above this high. So let's have a look on the hourly time frame. Now on the hourly time frame, we have an hourly resistance around 20.35.700. I'm gonna put another line, but I'm still paying attention to that rejection on the left. So we have 20.35.700. Looking at the family time frame to be adjusted to 20.36.700, and that's the same level of resistance on the 15-minute time frame. Now I would change it, instead of having the potential retest of this 4-hour rejection, I would pay attention to the 30-minute resistance. So I would say the first target for buys could potentially be 20.36.700. Yes, I'd say the first target for buys could potentially be 20.36.700, targeting this 30-minute resistance. And the reason why we're not really paying attention to a high level is because of the way this 4-hour candle rejected. So if this 4-hour candle rejected already, what is the probability for price to reject this area again? So we still have to pay attention to those time frames. I'm just gonna answer this one quickly. Good morning, Salim and the Dominion Markets team. I'm having a problem with a deposit I made to my Dominion Markets account 2 weeks ago, and today the money still has not arrived yet. Have you emailed support? If you can just email support again and then just mark it as urgent, we'll be more than happy to have a look for you. But it depends on what method you've deposited. It depends if you did deposit to a right network, because sometimes people deposit on the wrong network and obviously the money ends up getting lost because you're not following the proper procedure for your deposit. Just send us another email or just send me a message on Instagram and I'll have a look for you. I'll fast track it for you. That's not a problem at all. But yeah, anyways, so now to look for the second target for buys. Now the anticipation here is, again, looking at the weekly again. So we are still anticipating for the new weekly candle to retrace to form a top wick. Now again, we're going to go back to the same level, the previous weekly support around 20.44.100. Dropping down to the daily time frame, we have this previous daily resistance, a daily rejection area, I would say. Dropping down to the 4-hour time frame, now we have a 4-hour resistance formed around 20.41.700. Looking at hourly, that's an hourly resistance, so this becomes a valid area to have it as a potential second target for buys. So obviously that's also a 30-minute resistance, and that's where price previously consolidated, I would say. So what we could do here is have the second target for buys at 20.41.700, targeting this previous 30-minute resistance. And the one thing I would say is, if you were looking for buys, you're still holding buys, pay attention to how price would react within this 4-hour rejection, because despite knowing that you're targeting a second target for buys at 20.41.600, targeting this previous 4-hour resistance, there's still a probability for price to reject this area again, so you still want to pay attention to that. Every video they give me different time. Okay, so I have managed to contact the mini market support from the different places, but without a solution. Every 3 days they give me a different time waiting for me. Okay, so if you just do me a favor, please, if you can just send me a message on Instagram, and I'll be able to see what's going on. Because you know the thing is, if a client deposit, let's say if you deposit with crypto, then your withdrawal methods has to be with crypto. If you deposit with a credit card, your withdrawals has to be with credit card. So it all depends on how you did the deposit. Money still does not reach the account and they return estimate time. I have used the platform about 2.5 months and everything has. Okay, so just do us a favor, please, Gerardo. If you can just send me a message as mentioned on Instagram, and I'll be able to have a look. Okay, so now to look for potential sells. If anyone has questions regarding the buys, just let us know. Any suggestions will be more than welcome. Now to look for potential sells. So again, the sells would be, the idea for sells is to see the weekly wick fill, because then we can see price retesting this weekly support, and that means also the monthly candle will be bearish. Okay, so let's have a look again. I apologize about the pausing. Because you've mentioned about your, obviously your deposit. I've already said to you, just send a message on the on Instagram and I'll be able to have a look for you. But you keep repeating the same message, you keep spamming the chat, and you basically just disturbing the chat in general. So there's no problem with the deposit. Just send me a message and I'll be able to see what's going on with your deposit. Sometimes it could be to do with your bank, sometimes it could be to do in your end. You might have put a wrong network for your deposit on crypto. So it's all down to what actually happened on the deposit. Just send us a message on Instagram, and then I'll be able to have a look. Just put your full name, email address, a screenshot of the deposit, and then I'll look into it. Thank you. So now to look for potential sells. Now let's have a look on weekly. So the anticipation here for sells is to see the weekly wick fill, knowing that the monthly is bearish, the weekly is bearish. We still have that strong bearish momentum. We still have a confirmation for a rejection to the upside, a weekly resistance formed at this level, another weekly resistance formed in here, and another weekly resistance formed in here as well. So we still have really good confirmation for that continuation to the downside. Now the anticipation is to see a weekly support to be retested, which will allow the new weekly candle to fill this previous weekly low. Now dropping down to the daily time frame, and what we can see here is we have a daily support formed on Thursday around 20.09.400, but within these 2 daily candles, clearly we need to identify something, because that's a big range. So now dropping down to the 4-hour time frame. Within the 4-hour time frame, we have clean traffic on the 4-hour time frame. Yes, we do have clean 4-hour candles, but these 4-hour candles that you can see within this level, they've had less volume. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a line to where the last strong 4-hour candle closed, which was this one, and then we'll see if we can identify any potential previous resistance or a support. Dropping down to the hourly time frame, and this is where it gets really messy. We do have let's have a look. So we do have this previous 1-hour support around 20.19.400. So Neymat said for gold, is it not better to wait after the first target, since there is a rejection wick heading to the second target? So I think you're talking about potential buys. So is it not better to wait for after the first target, since okay, so the reason why I'm not looking for, let's say, buys above this level is because if that's what you mean, the only reason, are you talking about buys, Nimat? If that's buys, if that's what you're talking about, is if you're gonna look for potential buys, for example, above this 1 hour resistance, then the no trade zones becomes really large, and then you're still losing for, let's say, some sort of an opportunity to trade within this 4 hour rejection. Because within this 4 hour rejection, we have a hourly resistance, so we still have some potential. And again, the 2030 has been a strong level on high time frame. We've had the previous daily support, we have price ranging within this level. So yeah, I mean, if you feel comfortable taking buys above this previous 4 hour rejection, which meaning that you're taking buys above the previous daily high as it breaks above the high, then yes, that's still a valid idea. But the question is, as price starts to move bullish, for example, let's say price is breaking out of this range and closing bullish on the hourly time frame or the 4 hour time frame above this level. Now, if you're gonna wait for price to break above this level, you might see price rejecting this level. So this rejection, that's measuring around 76 pip range. So this is a huge rejection. So you could easily find trades within these rejections, and they don't have to be, big trades or big ranges. You still trade, so you're still trading the rejection on the 4 hour time frame, but you're still paying attention to another rejection that could potentially happen. Because the reason why we trade in this rejection is for the anticipation for the new weekly candle to form a top wick. But yeah, if you feel comfortable waiting for price to break above this 4 hour high, then by all means, I think it's still a valid idea for you. But the question is, what if he was looking for buys, and he was looking for buys, or let's say he was looking for price to break above this rejection, and then as you take a buy above this area, you're facing another 4 hour resistance. So now you say, okay, so I'm gonna wait for price to break above this 4 hour resistance. So you've already lost for, let's say, a big range to potentially trade. I'll say almost 100 pip range. Or what you could do is, instead of taking a big, piece of cake in here, let's say taking 49, you could take 20 pip range, or you can take 15 pips and then just get out and just wait for price to break above this high and then just scale it from there. That's what I would do. Because there's a reason to why this 4 hour candle closed at this level. There's a reason to why this 4 hour candle failed to continue bullish. So if this 4 hour candle failed to continue bullish and this 4 hour candle broke above the high, retraced and closed bearish, the next candle, either on the 30-minute time frame or the hourly time frame, if it closed above this area, there is a higher probability for price to continue bullish. Not only we're anticipating for a wick fill of this 4 hour rejection, but you have this 4 hour clean candle on the left. So this is what I'm paying attention to. This is what I'm looking at in terms of managing risk, basically. What I meant is to get out at the first TP of the 2036. What I meant is to get out at the first TP of 2036 700. Yeah, you could. I mean, like, they mean like closing trade completely and then re-enter. You could do that. You could do that. Because remember, the weekly closed bearish and the monthly is still bearish. So the only anticipation is you're anticipating for that. Like, you trading, so you're taking trades on buys is taking a risk, because the weekly is bearish. Because those buys could be the weekly candle forming a top wick before breaking the low. So that weekly candle, the buys could reject at any level, I would say. So now to look for potential sells. I hope this made it clear. Yeah, so now to look for potential sells. So now looking at the daily. The daily, we have identified the daily support, dropping down to the 4 hour time frame. We have identified this previous 4 hour range on the 4 hour time frame. And the reason why I'm saying this is because we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 4 hour candles closing, I would say, side by side, low volume. But then when you drop down to the hourly time frame, This is where it looks a little bit messy. We have this hourly support around 2019,600, and we have an hourly support at this level. Again, let's have a look on 5-minute time frame. I would say for potential sells, we could have sells targeting this hourly support around 20, let's say 2020. Again, this is going to be small targets simply because of how price have formed in here on the hourly time frame. However, the second target for sells, we have this daily support around 20.09,500, dropping down to the 4-hour time frame. Above this 4-hour range, I'm going to put a line at 2011 or 2012. Then we have a previous 1-hour resistance around 2015. And looking at the 30-minute time frame, we have a 30-minute support around 2014,600. I would say the second target for sells could potentially be 2014,600, targeting this 30-minute support, and there could be a continuation to the downside. The only reason why I am looking at this 30-minute support rather than, let's say, this previous 4-hour resistance is because within this range, when it dropped down to the hourly time frame, you can clearly see how this hourly candle has been printing side by side, obviously on the uptrend, but there has been a messy range. So, and again, you have to remember the weekly candle has only just opened, so we don't know where the price is going to range on Monday. We don't know where the direction the week is going to take. It would be good to see that new price action forming around the Asian session to give you an idea to where price could be going on Monday. Okay, understood. Many thanks, Salim. Yeah, you're welcome anytime. You know, if you do feel comfortable taking buys above, let's say 2036,700 as you mentioned, you could do that. But if you're taking, you know, buys above a certain area, the question is how comfortable you'd feel. Yes. Do we have any questions regarding these analyses? To be honest, Abdul Rahim, what he mentioned on the chart, actually this is something that could happen on GJ, because if they start to talk about currency intervention when they do the interest rates review for the Japanese yen, if they start to talk about a potential, you know, let's say increase in the rates, and that means the Japanese yen will gain value, meaning it'll go bullish, but GJ will form a rejection reject the upside. We'll see further sells on GJ, and that will allow the monthly candle to close bearish below this monthly resistance, or at least reject and trade above this below this monthly resistance. So I would say that's a valid idea from Abdul Rahim. Thank you for the analysis. You're welcome, Kiyodi. You're welcome anytime. Welcome to the live stream, Ziyad. But to be honest, what I actually visualized on gold, the way the daily candle closed on Friday, I'm really happy with this. Despite the daily candle closing weak bullish, it still formed that rejection. Now we've had, let's say for example, we have half of the confirmation. The reason why I'm saying half of the confirmation for that sell is because the daily closed bullish. So the rejection to the upside is only favor for potential sells or potential continuation to the downside on a weekly or the monthly. But what's stopping you from taking that as of now is the daily candle still closed bullish. Now anything can happen. We could potentially see, let's say for example, a daily wick fill, which will allow the weekly candle to retrace as far as, let's say, all the way around this previous weekly open area. So it all depends really, I would say. Review of the last no trade zone really helped to understand the breakout and entries. We'll appreciate we review today on when we want to start the next stream. Yeah, like I'm more than happy to do that. You know, I'll keep the exact same level. The only thing I would say, Nimat, is difficult because, for example, let's say talking about GJ. So now we do have this as the analysis set up for for GJ. We have potential buys above 188,430, potential sells below this area. The only problem is on Tuesday, when we have the live stream again, which obviously planning for Wednesday, we would have already had Monday daily candle and Tuesday. So Monday would have closed within this range, and Tuesday would still be open around that time. So we would have had 2 daily candles closing out of this level. Yes, I'll still keep the exact same levels, but we can still review them. That's not a problem at all. Yeah. David said, thank you for the analysis. You're welcome anytime, David. If you do have any questions regarding the analysis, anything related to the chart, anything, any questions, feel free to ask. Now, as the monthly candles approaching to a close, the one thing as a trader, what you want to be paying attention to is see how the monthly candle starts to behave. Like, if it's still to, let's say, it would start to anticipate where you wanted to see the monthly candle closing. I mean, the way the monthly candle's closing, it's really hard to determine where it could close, but your targets are, it would be good to see this monthly candle retracing, tapping into, let's say, the 1990s, tapping into this previous monthly resistance area, still closing above this level is fine, but at least the monthly candle would have made or created a rejection around the 1990s. So the live stream would be on Tuesday, 11 p.m. GMT, so that's UK time, be 5 p.m. Eastern time. The reason why we're doing it like this, obviously, we're doing the analysis preparing for Wednesday, but we're doing it at the Asian session open, so a day before. So for example, whatever we're doing today, in some places is Sunday still, but we're anticipating for what we could see for Monday. Then we do the live stream on Tuesday, anticipating for Wednesday, and we do it again on Thursday night, right at the Asian session, anticipating for the Friday. Now, I would say, based on how this weekly candle closed, meaning price rejected this previous weekly support, what would be good to see is this weekly candle closing or breaking below this low and closing below this weekly support, because then that will allow a healthy bearish monthly candle closing for January. Because if we have the weekly candle closing below this level, that means the monthly candle would be a decent candle. Let's have a look. So Molo, you're welcome anytime. But yeah, let's have a look at GJ. Yeah, GJ is just ranging. And you know what, like, where price is trading at the moment on GJ, this is I would say personally, to me, this is a historical level. Because when you look on the left, above this rejection, look at this decent monthly range that you have on the left. A huge level, you know. You can clearly see how, like, you know, the price ranged here on a monthly time frame and then broke above this level. The anticipation was to see as price within this recent price action here, would have been good to see as price tap into this previous monthly support, which is, let's say, let's put a line in here. Would have been good to see a retracement and then a continuation to the upside. But wherever price is forming a range on a monthly time frame is the exact same level on the left. And this is the reason why I said where price is trading at the moment is a historical level, you know, because if price ranged at this level, which is similar to this previous range, if we get the candle closing out of this range, now the next target we have on a monthly time frame is we have this monthly resistance around 193,500, which we have clean traffic on the left. But the question is, are we gonna get to see that continuation to the upside now, or are we gonna see another rejection, a deeper pullback, another retest of this previous monthly resistance, establish a new monthly support and retest these highs before the continuation to the upside? Now again, this is obviously a long vision. It's just visualizing what you want to see or what you could potentially see based on high time frame. Let's just zoom this back here. Abdul, you're welcome anytime. But you know what, if gold break and close below the 2000 level, if we get that confirmation on a weekly, this is a really good, this is a really good level to trade. You know, this is a good range to potentially look at. The way you break it down is, for example, the only issue we have here is we have this recent weekly support, which last weekly candle rejected. So if we put a line at this level and then you look at the monthly time frame, actually the daily time frame, you have this daily support around 1982. And you have this weekly support. So there's still, there's still some really good setups for potential sells, I would say. The only thing that's becoming really hard is potential buys, because if you're going to anticipate buys, you're going to need a weekly candle or a daily candle forming a strong bullish candle, preferably to see that confirmation on a weekly time frame. And even if it was going to happen on a weekly, that would look really, really messy. Depends where the weekly candle closes, meaning the weekly will form a huge rejection to the downside, closing bullish. Very interesting, very, very interesting. And you never know, you might see just a new range forming here on a weekly time frame up until the next review for rates from the Federal Reserve. So I think we have another probably about 20 minutes on the live stream before the live stream come to an end. So if you do have any questions, let us know. So for gold break of 2013, 300 can get to 1982. So that is on the high time frame. Let's have a look. 2013. 2013, I could get to 1980, so he said 1982. I'm just gonna put a line to where you've mentioned and look at different time frames to see what you're actually looking at. And I like what you're looking at, to be honest. 1982. Because what you're looking at is you're looking at these rejections, which could be an area where price could tap into, bounce before that continuation to the downside. So it makes sense, to be honest. I like this idea. I like what you're into, Nimat. Because if price break up below this weekly support, yes, we do have clean traffic on the left based on a weekly time frame. But where is the most recent rejection? Apart from this rejection formed on the weekly recently, we have these multiple weekly rejections on the left. which is something that you could look at as a guide. So that's really good. I like that idea. How I could know that there is volume before participating in a trade. The best way to identify a volume is to look at the candlesticks, and I'm gonna give a quick explanation on this. For example, oh shit. Okay, so the way you can identify volume, for example, is when price starts to range, for example. Let me see if I can see anything on gold actually. Yeah, so the way you can identify volume is by looking at the size of the candles. For example, if you can identify a range, then it will be easy for you to identify when you can see volume. For example, here you can easily see those hourly candles are way smaller the way they close in than when you compare to these hourly candles on the left. You can clearly see hourly candles closing side by side, small hourly candles, even when you drop down to the 30-minute time frame, a messy range. So this is where there is no volume. So the way to identify the high volume time is looking at, let's say, for example, pre-London session, London Open. After the London Open, you've got the pre-NY, the New York session open, the NYSE, London close, so let's say the pre-Asian session, the Asian Open. These are the times where there is high volume time. Now, to identify where you can see volume in the chart is look at the candles. For example, the way this hourly candle closed, when you compare it to these previous hourly candles on the left, whatever this hourly, for example, whatever this hourly candle did close, none of these candles managed to do it. For example, this candle managed to close above multiple or just within multiple hourly candles, and then you can see clearly after that the new hourly candle broke above the high and continued bullish. You can clearly see that bullish momentum, and I'd say that's the best way to identify. You need to see, you start to see, the candles, measuring a lot more than these recent candles, and that works out like, I would say that you could apply this by any time frame, whether it's the 30-minute time frame. It depends on the ranges, but you could work it out based on the hourly time frame, on the 4-hour time frame, on the daily, on the weekly. You can even identify this in, for example, where is it? I believe I've seen something on GJ. You can even identify it here. For example, you can see how the monthly candles ranging within this level, and then you have one monthly candle closing bullish, closing above this monthly resistance, what multiple candles failed to do. Then obviously the following candle closed bullish, the following one continued that bullish momentum. But yeah, I would say thanks so much, Salim. Alexandria, you're welcome anytime. Thank you for all you are doing for this community and your consistency. Yeah, you're welcome anytime, Nimat. I really appreciate the feedback. I mean it. I say it many times. I'll repeat it again. I genuinely enjoy these analyses. I honestly enjoy breaking it down. The only thing I'm still not as used to it is the chart on MT5. I think on TradingView it looks a bit more better to break it down. I do want to improve on some of the things. I wanna get like I do have a decent laptop, I do have a decent PC and everything, but I want to get something that I can draw in the screen, so then I can, draw different things and then explain things differently. But yeah, doing it just with the mouse, I think it's really difficult to explain things the way I want to explain them. But yeah. So basically, I want to be able to animate on the charts, to draw different things, I would say. Salim, I'm going to give you a nickname. I'm wondering what that nickname's gonna be. I highly recommend people to, stick 1 to 2 pairs. That's the best advice I've taken from Raja. It really, yeah, I would say you'd be able to enjoy trading a lot more, knowing that you have less pressure on having to view different charts, less pressure on knowing, having to look at different prices. Like I can easily memorize, price levels. I can easily recall when an area was tapped multiple times. For example, in gold, you've got the 1830s, you've got the 1930s. Is an area where price tapped previously multiple times, forms a rejection, close below that area. So it's something that you start to build, and then you start to have a lot more room to look at into like the fundamental side of it. You start to really love looking at the chart, and then you start to identify where price form ranges. So it makes it easier to trade the pair. 1 to 2 pairs maximum. You're welcome, Ziad. You're welcome anytime. So the broker I'm using is obviously Dominion Markets. That's a no-brainer. I honestly, anyone who's not with Dominion Markets, I highly recommend you to give it a test. All you have to do is, I've put a link under the description. Just open a live account, deposit a minimum of $100 or £100 or whatever, and just test out the platform yourself. I cannot, there's certain things that it's really hard to explain up until you experience it yourself. The level of liquidity we have really, really, low latency. We have tight spreads, a good customer support. Your commission doesn't go to nothing. You can put your commissions towards a digital magic keys or a market fluidity course where you can get a lot more education, which many brokers don't actually do that. You get into a really good network. Potentially you get into a Discord private group where only Dominion Markets users get access to. So yeah, only the UK crew will be allowed to call you the name. I'm wondering what's the name. Yeah, go ahead. Let's see what you've got in mind. But yeah, in the UK right now it's so windy. It's there's a new storm coming in, and the wind is like 90 miles per hour, so it's like really, really windy. So say for example, like how price is breaking now. When I first started trading, I'd get really I'd get really, so quick in taking the trade and thinking, oh, volume is coming in. I'd never rush it. You think, okay, so I'm gonna take a sell right at this level, and you become really impatient, and then you end up becoming a wick. You take a sell here, price starts to retrace, and that forms a rejection. It's not because the trade is not valid, but you have to remember the weekly candle has literally only just opened, so price is just forming a new range, and that's completely normal. So you need to allow price to do its own thing, and even if it breaks out of this range, that doesn't mean you've missed out on a sell. It could be just price breaking out of this level, forming some sort of a support on a lower time frame. Potentially could be 15-minute support, and then retracing back into the range. So I wouldn't really rush into any trades. GJ Del Boy. I don't really know what's the meaning behind that. Are you talking about the laptop Del or GJ Del Boy? That's it. Salim, please, where are you based in the UK? So I'm based in Leeds in West Yorkshire. That's like a good 2 hours and 50 minutes drive from London. I actually like it here. I really like Leeds. It's a nice quiet area. It's a nice city. London, yes, it's nice, but you don't really feel the level of freedom in London because it's too crowded. And for me, yeah, like as a visitor, to go to just have like a day out or a week or whatever is nice. But to be able to live there, I think I wouldn't want to have it. Because obviously I'm used to living in Leeds. A lot more space in here. You know, you can park anywhere. There's so many gardens around here. There's so many, you know, parks and different activities you can do. I feel like London, it's becoming really difficult to go to, you know. But yeah, some people might disagree with that. I just like the freedom. For example, Ziad, you've mentioned, you know, how you can identify, you know, volume. This is a non-volume time. If you have, and this is just something that you know, you could start to anticipate yourself. See how these candles close in small body candles. For example, start to measure these candles. Yeah. Sorry about that. Let's have a look. So for example, if you measure these candles, the body of the candles, that's 14 pip range, 4 pip range, 2 pip range, 5 pip range. If the next candle, or let's say if a new candle comes in and closes around 10 pip range and above with the body candle only, then that's when you start to get yourself ready. Okay, so volume's coming in, you know, I need to be ready. So now what you need to do is you need to wait for that confirmation. So everything has to line up, not only the candles, but also the volume time. You know, is it pre-London open? Is it London open? Are we getting news? You know, so all of this comes into a level of, let's say, you have to take these levels. Okay, so you have to take these things. Okay, the first thing is look at the body of the candles, how they're forming. Secondly, look at the time when you're trading. Thirdly, are you with the trend? And then obviously look for the when you can potentially take your buys or sells. Let's have a look. Thank you very much for helping with the analysis, for everything. I appreciate you. Yeah, you're welcome anytime. I'm not really sure what your name is. On here it's displayed as Wold. I believe you've got a different name. That would be good to see what that name is. But yeah, you're welcome anytime. I honestly enjoy them. These analyses are always going to be here. We're always going to be breaking down these analyses, and I can guarantee you guys, if you keep tuning into these live streams every single day, you'll take something new. Not only maybe you don't benefit from the, you know, the knowledge that I'm giving out here, but you start to look, like you start to notice patterns, you know, because you come into the same live stream over and over again. You're starting to see price range in a certain level, a 4-hour forming a range, a daily forming a range. Then you start, okay, so how come price is ranging? You start to, you know, break it down yourself. And this is the exact same thing I did. You know, I still tune into all the live streams that Raja does, and with that, it gives you consistency. You start to, you know, line up your buys with a valid reason. You know, for example, sometimes you don't know where you're going to take a trade, and you start to question yourself. At least when you have someone with you giving you that knowledge, or giving you that, you know, courage, or giving you the reason to why, you know, we're looking for potential buys above a certain levels, or we're not looking for buys within a certain levels, then at least you have another confirmation for yourself to know whether you want to take a trade or not. For example, if anyone asks me a question and say, why did they have this as a no trade zone, I would be more than happy to answer that question. Those no trade zones are not displayed randomly. I'm not just putting level. If someone's going to say to me, why don't you trade this range? Yes, I do have an answer for that. You know, this is a messy range. You know, you have another answer for that. You need to allow price to range, form a new range. So for example, the reason why we're looking for buys above 188.430, we have a 4-hour resistance. If multiple candles fail to close and break above the 188.500, once the price break up and close above this level, there is a higher probability for price to continue bullish. So it gives you that clarity, I would say. Many thanks, Salim. Yes, a one-stop shop for learning and earning. Cannot stop thanking you. Salim. Yeah. Honestly, you're welcome anytime. I appreciate all the love and all the support. It genuinely means a lot. You know, I'd say just you know, keep participating on the live stream. Ask any questions. Ask as many questions as you want. You know, it's a good practice for yourself. You know. But it would be good to see people giving us more likes on the live stream. If you guys can give us, you know, likes, share the live stream, subscribe to the channel, because what we want to do is we want to grow the channel. We want to have a bigger community. We want to be able to serve more people and pass on this knowledge. I think we have about 9 minutes left on the live stream, so if you do have any questions, just let us know. We could potentially see daily resistance forming on Monday, to be honest, for gold. But what would be better is if we see because the one thing I'm looking at is gold, the monthly, the weekly is bearish. The daily candle closed week bullish. Even if the monthly, let's say, even if the new weekly candle or the new daily candle break above this high, I still can see sells playing out, to be honest. The only thing that you want to see is another rejection to the upside. For example, let's say the daily candle breaking above this high, but then retracing and closing with a rejection to the upside. As long as it is respecting this previous weekly support, as long as it trades below the 2045, I think sells are still valid. Abdul said, I asked a question about notifications. What was the question again? I think I have. Oh, okay, yeah, actually just saying it. Yeah, I apologize. Do you send notifications to your subscribers for the live stream? Yeah, so all you need to do is just make sure that you're logged into your YouTube account, subscribe to the channel, and there's a bell just on the side. Just make sure that bell is ticked on all notifications. So if you're on the phone, if you click on the bell, it shows all personalized, known, and subscribe. Just make sure to click on all, so as soon as I go live, you just get a notification on your phone and you can just open it. Otherwise, what you can do is just make sure you remember. It depends on your time zone. So we have the live stream happening on Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, 11 p.m. GMT, which is a UK time. That will be 5 p.m. Eastern time. And the live streams are always starting for the around the exact same time. Always starting at the 11 p.m. UK time, and usually I allow about 10 minutes before I start breaking down the chart, just to allow people to join in, and to then at least have a few people joining in for the live stream. What about the daily analysis? What have you stopped making them? If you're talking about the videos have been replaced with the live stream. The reason for that is, with the videos, they were good and I really enjoyed doing them. I was doing them 5 days a week. The only problem with the videos is you don't have that human interaction. You're looking at the analysis, you're listening, But the problem is, if you've had any questions wanting to ask, oh, how come we looking at the certain level, how come we can't buy, you know, how come we can't buy gold at 2030 but we can buy at 2035, I cannot answer that question. And by the time you ask a question on the comments, by the time I reply, maybe the move would have already happened. But when we have these live streams, we can do the breakdown analysis together. You can ask questions and I can answer you in real time. And it's just a good practice as well, because it gives you a habit of coming back to the same live stream over and over again. And you can participate on, you know, sharing ideas. You can ask questions related to trading. And yeah, it's something that's, I think it's good, you know, because that human interaction is actually really needed. You know, we live in the day and age where everything is turning into automatic. You know, for example, you want to make a phone call, you always get through the you know, the AI. You know, you want to talk to somebody, you have to tell the AI what you want. You have to tell them in plain English, explain to them what you want. Sometimes it doesn't go to plan, and then by the time you get to speak to human, it's going to take you so long, maybe like 5-10 minutes. You're just going to give up. Sometimes you wait all these minutes and it tells you, you know, the lines are unavailable, or maybe, you know, there's no one to speak to you, just send an email. Where here we can interact with people, we can talk to you, we can just make it like more lively, I would say. You know, it's good to have that human interaction. Yes, live stream is more good, thank you very much. Yeah, you're welcome anytime. Abdul, thanks. You're welcome, Abdul. Yeah, you're welcome anytime. But yeah, trust me, the live streams are way better, because not only it allows you to ask questions, but also it gives you that discipline to come back to the chart the same days, the same time, and potentially, eventually, you start to pick up a pattern on the chart. You start to notice certain moves happening over and over. So you become really good at, you know, predicting price action. Videos are good for learning for person that don't speak English very well. Yeah, I like live streams because, yeah, to be honest, you know, the other thing about the pre-recorded videos I used to do is, for me personally, it took me a while to get used to making them, because when I used to make these videos, and every single video that I've made on the Mini Markets channel, every single one I've made, I have not had any cuts on a video. It was literally straight one recorded video. There was no pausing, there's nothing. So every time I'm starting the analysis and I'm breaking it down and I'm reviewing the previous daily candle, and then slightly, let's say I go quiet for 2 seconds. I don't like it. I'm OCD with this kind of stuff. So what I do is I stop the video and then record it again. So sometimes a 5-minute video can take me 45 minutes to record, and it's frustrating for me personally, but I wanted to keep that good consistency quality, because the one thing I didn't want to be called out on, saying, oh, he's been cutting his videos, he's been waiting for time. But on the videos that I've posted previously, you'll notice the timer in here, as I'm speaking, it's always the same. There's nothing that's changing. So for example, I'm not like cutting them halfway through just to make them look good, but I'm literally just a 5-minute video, just speaking straight knowledge, breaking down the analysis, looking for potential buys, looking for potential sells. So different things in general, you know. The one thing I used to struggle with, I would say, that's one thing. The second thing is, sometimes I've had so many ideas I wanted to share, but I was unable to do that because the time was limited. I've had only 5 minutes to record the video. The reason why we've had it specifically around 5 minutes is because we wanted to keep those videos fun, and we don't want someone to be getting bored at watching, you know, a 20-minute breakdown video on GJ and then another 20-minute on gold, and then by the end of it you can't even interact with that person, you can't ask questions. So it becomes, I would say, time consuming, you know. Yeah, on live stream you can ask questions, that's right. You can ask questions, you can challenge as well, you know. You can say, how come you can challenge me on my levels, and I like that, you know. I've noticed Nimat, like sometimes he mentions certain levels, he asks about, you know, How come you don't look for buys at a certain area? Like, for some people, they might disagree. For some people, they might have an ego and say, no, I'm the one who's hosting the live stream. I'm the one who's saying where you're going to look for buys. I'm not that type of person at all. I'm happy to take, opinions. I'm happy to listen to others, because I believe if I didn't listen to others, I wouldn't be where I am today. If I didn't listen to Raja, if I had an ego, I wouldn't be where I am today. So it's good to listen to people. Totally understandable, yeah. It's but as soon as I've had the news about doing the live stream, I was really happy. I was anxious in a way, because I've never had many people listening, talking, like one person just talking. It's a difficult thing to overcome for me personally, but once it's done, that's it. It was just it's just that first 5 seconds on when you know that you're live, people's listening to you. You can't really mess up at all. So every time the candle passed the no trade zone, we have to wait for close candle. Yeah, I would say, because if you, for example, if price is ranging and price break, okay, I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah, so for example, if price break below this level, ideally is to wait for price to break and close below this 1 hour support, because then the new hourly candle or the new 30-minute candle allow it to form a top range. Once it forms a top wick and it starts to break its own low, that's when you're going to start to be ready to execute on a trade. But don't do that until it breaks below the previous week hourly low, for example. But it depends on that hourly that closed, where it closed. For example, let's say the hourly candle closed around, let's say it closed around 2021,700. Now if you're going to wait for price to break and close below that low that was formed at this level, that means your stop loss are going to be much larger. Now that's when you're going to ask yourself a question: are you going to wait to take a trade as it breaks above below this previous 1 hour support, or are you going to wait for the break of the previous week hourly low? So it all depends on the volume. So then you start to look at different confirmations. Look at the 30-minute candle, how it was formed. Try to potentially identify a rejection on the 50-minute time frame. As the 50-minute candle starts to reject the upside, retraces once it breaks below the low, and you start to say, okay, so the 30-minute candle has already formed the top wick, therefore I could take a sell. I could keep my stop loss above the current 30-minute high, and then at least your entry is not too far to where your stop loss is, and then you can manage your risk accordingly. You're doing great. Thank you, Zain. I appreciate the comment. Yeah, but sometimes what happened is price can be ranging for a really long time. Sometimes, let's say you waited for the pre-London, no volume. London open, no volume. London close, pre-NY, no volume. And then you start to really become impatient. And then it comes to London, let's say London close, and you start to see price breaking below, and you'll be like, oh, that's just range. But then you break out of that range, and it moves way out of this range, and then you see you've missed a trade. Now, the only way you could have taken that sell is if you've taken an impulse entry. And then the question is, are you comfortable with the impulse entry? So there's different things, The only way I would say you can, the only way you could start to practice on to wait for a confirmation for price to close out of the range, or of like whether you want to take an impulse entry, is if you see the same move happening over and over and over again. And again, it's all down to the experience. Just be patient. Don't rush anything. Even if you miss out on the trade, look at it as like a lesson. I wouldn't yeah, like I wouldn't, you know, cry over it basically. Because if price broke out of the range during high volume time, for example, and if there was no confirmation, you might see the exact same thing happening on Tuesday, and then you might see the exact same happening on Wednesday. So then you start to see, okay, so if the same patterns happened over and over on the same session, different days, maybe I start to anticipate that same trend in the following week, because it might happen the same way. Yeah, doing great. Excellent, Salim. Well done. Thank you, Nima. Thank you. Yes, we have problem with the patience. Yeah, that's something that patience is a huge thing. Patience is what's gonna pay you in trading, you know, and that's why we have a no trade zone, because this no trade zone is going to give you a chance to step away from the charts, so you don't overtrade. That's why also you do your analysis, because if you don't do your analysis, you're not going to know where your levels are. You're not going to know where you were looking for potential buys. You're not going to respect your trade idea. So that's why it's so important to do your analysis, to anticipate at the start of the daily candle. And that's why I always do them at the pre-Asian session. And there's no point to do them at London session. Yes, you can do analysis around the London session, reviewing your analysis, but not to start the analysis around the London session. I mean, everyone's different, but I like to anticipate my analysis way ahead, because then I know how accurate I am with my analysis. So I think the live stream is coming to an end. If you guys have any questions, just let me know. I'm just going to keep it for another 1 minute and I'll end the stream. But just a quick reminder, the next live stream will be on Tuesday. That will be 11 p.m. GMT UK time, which will be 5 p.m. Eastern time. Yeah, we will be reviewing how the weekly candle was playing out already, looking at the Monday daily candle, the Tuesday, preparing for Wednesday, obviously. I don't think we have any questions, so I'd just like to say thank you everyone for tuning into the live stream. Thank you for all the support. Thank you for all the participation that you put in on the group. I really appreciate everyone. If GJ breaks 188 downtrend downwards, then I consider it new range below. Let's have a look. 188. If GJ breaks 188 downwards, then I consider it in a new range below. I mean, what do you consider a new trade, like a new range? I'm not really sure what you exactly mean by this, but this is the no trade that I have. I think I know what you mean. Yeah, it's still within the range, really, you know, because that's going back into another level of range, which that's why we've had this as a no trade zone, because based on the 30-minute time frame, I know what you mean. That's another new range below on the 30-minute time frame, but that is combined on the hourly time frame. Yes, that is correct. But thank you everyone. Just make sure to give us a like, share this live stream and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you all on Tuesday. Thank you. Thanks.